Alright, so I'm going to start off this video by saying I am concerned about the Life is Strange TV show series, and you're probably thinking, Branny, what do you mean? What do you mean there's a show? No, there's not. What are you talking about? Well, actually, we learned from Variety the other day, Life is Strange TV series set at Amazon from Charlie Cavell, Square Enix, Story Kitchen, and Lucky Chap. And if you want me to be entirely honest with you, I feel like the fact that Charlie Cavell is the showrunner is the only redeeming thing that we have going on for this series, but we'll get more into that later, and we're gonna start with my issues with the casting. And I know whenever we think about casting and TV shows and it being bad, we all think of The Last of Us. And no, I'm not going to be referring to Bella Ramsey, because weirdly enough, that's not where my qualm is. You know, because whenever I was watching the show, and admittedly I haven't watched the entirety of the show, but I have an issue with who they casted as Abby. And Abby in the show, like, a lot of traumatic things happened to her. You know what I mean? And in order to avoid these nightmares that she was having because of these incidents, she would stay up all night long, you know, just hitting the gym, pumping the iron, okay? And as a result, she got buff as hell. I mean, look at her here. Like, she's a monster. Obviously, this probably isn't, like, the best picture to show the entirety of her physique, but you can tell even just in the shitty lighting how buff she is. And typically, like, an actor's body type wouldn't really bother me whenever it comes to casting, because I mean, like, it's a superficial thing, it doesn't really matter. However, whenever it comes to Abby and The Last of Us in particular, I feel that it's incredibly important, because not only, obviously, you want the actress, whoever's playing her, to look like her, but also I feel that her physique is a huge part of her character, and it shows a lot of her backstory, and not having that really takes away from her backstory in the story, period. Because if we look at this picture again, like, look at her, you know, she's very, like, I don't want to say boxy, because I don't think that's the right word, but she's a hell of a woman, okay? But if we look at the actress who plays Abby, and also, I want to go ahead and clarify, no shade no shade at all to this actress and who she is as a person. I just have an issue with the story elements. But if we look at her here, like, yeah, like, she has the braid, and she has, like, the general, like, face of Abby. Like, if we look at this picture here, I would say, even though she's in makeup here, and obviously Abby, she's not wearing makeup and, like, fucking up the clickers, okay? But they look similar, you know, and I will give them that. However, the fact that, like, this doesn't match, her body type doesn't match Abby's. Like I said, I typically wouldn't have an issue with this, but the fact that it plays such a huge part into the story is where I have an issue. And you're probably wondering, well, Branny, yeah, this is the Last of Us show. I mean, how does this relate to the Life is Strange series? Because they're not being made by the same people. Like, why does this concern you? It concerns me because obviously we have had a lot of video game adaptations made within the last few years. Not just The Last of Us, but Fallout, Halo, we've had FNAF. I have so many opinions on all of those that I might share later, but some of these were great. You know, like the FNAF movie, I wasn't mad at the FNAF movie. I liked it. It wasn't bad. However, Halo, I haven't watched it, but I have heard that it wasn't great, you know, and a lot of these shows, and not even just video game adaptations, but shows, period, based off of other media, I feel have taken a lot of shortcuts, you know, and with the Life is Strange series, no, like, the appearances of, like, Max and Chloe, they matter in the sense of, like, we want them to look like the characters, because obviously, but as far as, like, I remember, and as far as my knowledge goes, like, there's no really physical component that links to the story, you know what I mean, like Abby. However, I know that there are certain things that would add to the story and that would take away. Because if we're talking about Max in particular, the actress who played Enid in Wednesday actually had showed interest in playing Max Caulfield. And at first, I was a little, I wasn't sure how I felt about it, you know, because I wasn't really familiar with her acting. I wasn't really familiar with her as a person. However, if we look at her here and then look at Max here, I mean, like, it's not a weird, uncanny resemblance. However, there could be a lot that would be done in order to make her resemble her even more. And even just with her acting, I feel like it would be a really good fit. And the main characters in terms of Max and Chloe, I mean, yeah, I'm concerned about their casting, because obviously, but that's not where my biggest worries lie, actually, which is probably surprising to some of you. But actually, I am concerned on who is going to play the photography teacher, who is going to play Nate Prescott, you know, like those characters, because I feel like that is something that you have to get it right with this one. I don't think we can just place any actor or any actress in those roles, even though, like I said, you want them to resemble the characters because duh, but typically if it's like a little bit off, it doesn't bother me. But I feel with how the story went, and I'm gonna try not to give too many spoilers for those of you that haven't played the games, but I feel like with the way the story went and the severity and like the prominence that Nate Prescott and the photography teacher have, I feel like that we need it to be more spot on than what these recent adaptations have been. And especially Rachel Amber. You know, because the first season of this series, they said it was going to be Life is Strange 1, the first game. Like, we weren't getting Before the Storm first. And I'm going to get into my thoughts on that in particular because I have some issues with that. But the fact that we're going to have to cast Rachel Amber, because even though it takes place in the events of the first game, you know, there's missing persons posters. You know what I mean? So who is going to play Rachel Amber? And even though, like I said, I wasn't too concerned about like Max and Chloe. I mean, I am. Don't get me wrong, I am. But who plays Rachel? For those of you who have played the game, she obviously plays such an important role, and I feel like getting that right is absolutely crucial. And then getting into where the series starts, because like I said, the series starts with the events of Life is Strange 1. You know, because Life is Strange 1, we had Before the Storm, we had Life is Strange 2, and we had Double Exposure. Like, there's so many that we had, and my question here is Before the Storm. Obviously, Before the Storm came after Life is Strange 1, but where it was a prequel, are they going to do flashbacks to it? Is the second season going to be Before the Storm like it was, like the sequence of events of the games? Like, I'm not sure how that would play out, because it could work if they did flashbacks. I don't think that would be something that would be terrible. However, just doing a flashback like every single episode, every other episode, especially depending on the season length, I feel like there would be a lot that could be missed and a lot of details that could be overlooked, because Before the Storm, right, had so many different things, like even as far as pointing to the fact that Rachel Amber is the storm, you know, that they're dealing with in Life is Strange 1. So the fact that we're not getting anything, you know, about Before the Storm, before the events of the first game, like, they could do it right. Don't get me wrong, they could do it right. However, it just doesn't set right to me. And the other games, because like I said, I don't know if they're going to do the seasons in order that the games came out, but at the same time, how are they going to tie them all together? And with Double Exposure, are they going to include Double Exposure? Because something that I had a huge issue with, other than all of the things that I've talked about previously, is the fact that your choices don't matter. And I feel like this is the biggest qualm that I have with the fact that they're making the series, because it's kind of like, y'all know, if you've been over here on the channel for a while, I absolutely love the Walking Dead Telltale game series, okay? And I would love, in theory, for it to be made into a TV show series. But I know it would be a terrible idea as much as I would love it, because there's so many different decisions you can make and so many versions of what people consider canon that there is no possible way that you could appease everyone. And I feel like that this is the issue that we're really going to run into whenever we watch this series, because, you know, your actions have consequences. That's the big quote that we constantly see throughout the Life is Strange series. But making it a series, you're not going to have us choose. Bay or Bay, which is canon, okay? And that's a lot of the reason why a lot of people had issues with them making the double exposure game, because you're essentially choosing for us. You know what I mean? So it makes me wonder how the showrunners are really going to do this. Are there going to be multiple realities? Like, is that going to matter? Like, and that's something, I don't know. Like, I could talk on and on and on and on about the your choices don't matter dilemma, especially with The Walking Dead and the series, because I feel like people who have made story choice games, okay, where you make choices in order to like change the outcome, right? I feel like the only ones that truly did it right was Detroit Become Human. Okay, so whenever I see anything like this, it makes me really hesitant. For sure. But then we have how long it's taken in order to get this series greenlit, because for almost a decade, they've been wanting to make this into a TV show series, and there's been so many writers and so many companies and so many people that have came out, and they finally got the green light. And my concern is where it took so unbelievably long to get the confirmation that this was going to be a series to begin with. Like, when is casting gonna happen? When is filming gonna happen? Like, we have no set deadlines, and in my opinion, like, I would hate for this to become a Stranger Things situation. And obviously Stranger Things, like, that is a situation in and of itself, but I mean that whenever I say, like, it took so long in between seasons, right? Like, we started we started Stranger Things in the very, like, we were in the Obama administration whenever we started Stranger Things, okay? We went through multiple presidents, and Stranger Things is still going on. And I'm hoping that they didn't kind of announce this too early, because such a travesty it would be for people to get so excited about this game and about this series and then it just fizzle out. Like, I would absolutely hate to see that happen. And granted, I'll give Stranger Things the benefit of the doubt and say that, like, COVID, obviously the writer strikes, like, yeah, those things did happen, but obviously there were still some issues there, and we don't know like what's going to happen with this series until it does. But honestly, I am not going to get too excited until I see that they're doing casting before I can say that it's truly confirmed. And back to my qualms whenever it comes to video game adaptations that have been made as of recent. Like, there are a lot of issues and a lot of concerns that I have with the Life is Strange series, but as I mentioned in the very beginning, I feel like the one redeeming quality that this has is the fact that Charlie Covell is the one that's going to be showrunning it. And I say that because Charlie Covell, he was the one that made End of the Fucking World. He kept it like as lore accurate as he could, and the fact that he's a fan of the Life is Strange games, I feel like that's a good thing, and that's it's good to have someone who is like genuinely personally invested into something. And End of the Fucking World, just like, I haven't watched the whole series or anything, but like the visuals, I've seen scenes, how it was done, it was beautiful. But the unfortunate thing, though, is you can have an amazing showrunner but a shitty show. And I don't necessarily think that the Life is Strange series, I don't want to say and come on here and be like, oh, it's going to be shitty, it's going to suck. Because, like, I don't know. I don't know. Like, I want to have high hopes, but honestly, the fact that, like, there's been so much back and forth, it's taken so long, the whole casting thing, the fact that, like, your choices don't matter, like, all of that stuff bundled up and put in a box with a bow, it doesn't look great, but like I said, we'll find out when we find out. Hopefully, like, I know I say that, like, oh, like, I'm not gonna say it's confirmed until there's casting. Like, watch me say that. And then there's casting that comes out. We might react to the casting because I feel like that could be fun. But what do you guys think about the Life is Strange series? Do you think it's gonna happen? Do you think it's gonna be good? Do you think it's gonna be shit? Do you think it's gonna suck? Let me know down in the comments below. And if you guys want more content like this, please be sure to like and subscribe. And if you're oh so inclined, watch another video to spend more time with your girl. and I will see y'all in the next one. Bye, guys.